Welcome back. Today, we are unpacking a seriously remarkable text. We're going verse by verse through all 38 verses of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 20. It's titled, A Divine Encounter Between Sovereign and Supreme. We're looking at a breathtaking conversation between King Prithu and Lord Vishnu himself, right after a massive disruption to the king's grand sacrifices. It's basically a master class in philosophy, leadership, and pure devotion. Okay, let's dive into this.
Here is our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to cover 6 distinct, dramatic stages of this conversation. Forgiving Heaven's King, true self-philosophy, a leader's duty, devotional response, the ultimate prayer, and finally, blessings and departure. We'll be hitting every single verse. So starting right off with Act 1, Forgiving the King of Heaven, covering verses 1 through 3.
Let's set the scene here. King Prithu was right in the middle of performing 100 magnificent horse sacrifices, but Indra, the king of heaven, kept repeatedly disrupting them. Now, when Lord Vishnu actually appears with a very ashamed Indra, he doesn't punish him, no way. Instead, he looks at King Prithu and essentially says, "You should forgive him." Now, what's really interesting about this is that in verse 2, the Lord fully acknowledges Indra's disruptions, but he still asks Prithu to let it go. Why? Well, because, as Vishnu explains in the very next verse, the most elevated, intelligent humans, the absolute best of men, just don't hold grudges. They don't harbor malice against others. Their minds are completely above those petty rivalries.
That brings us to Act 2, Philosophy of the True Self, which takes us through verses 4 to 11. That incredible act of forgiveness instantly shifts the tone of our explainer into some really deep philosophical territory. Lord Vishnu uses this moment of conflict resolution to create a stark contrast, basically explaining why wise people don't get attached to grievances or, anything material at all. On one hand, you have the temporary material body. Vishnu points out that this body is simply a product of ignorance, material desires, and past karma. Because of that, a truly awakened person doesn't become infatuated with it or with all the things it produces, like a house, offspring, or wealth. But on the other hand, you have the true self, the eternal, pure soul. And the soul is described as self-luminous, totally pure, and completely unaffected by the modes of material nature. It's really just acting as an observer, a witness to the whole shebang.
And understanding that difference leads us to an absolutely crucial concept in verse 10, Kaivalya. This is the Sanskrit term for ultimate liberation. Vishnu explains that when a pure-hearted person steadily worships the Lord without any underlying material desires, their mind becomes completely peaceful. They literally transcend material qualities and achieve this profound state of spiritual emancipation. They rest securely in the supreme truth.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Act 3, the duties of a leader, covering verses 12 through 16.
Having established that ultimate spiritual reality, Vishnu brings the philosophy right down to earth for some practical application, outlining the incredibly heavy duties of a leader. He demands that a king remain completely steady, equal in both happiness and distress, with absolutely no bias toward the highest or the lowest citizens. This actually breaks down the ancient karmic math of leadership described in verse 14. Listen to this. If you're a ruler, your actions have direct, mathematical, spiritual consequences. If a king actively protects his citizens, he earns 1/6 of all their pious, good credits in his next life. But, and this is a big but, if a king just sits back, collects taxes, and fails to protect the people, he is stripped of his own pious credits, and it gets worse. He takes on all the sins committed by those unprotected citizens. So, leadership here isn't just a privilege, it's an immense spiritual liability.
Vishnu then tells Prithu that because he is maintaining this incredible spiritual equanimity and leading the right way, he'll soon get to actually see perfected spiritual beings. And then, in verse 16, Vishnu makes the ultimate offer. He is so captivated by Prithu's stellar character and equal vision that the Lord, who, remember, cannot be easily attained just through asceticism or sacrifices, offers the king literally any boon he desires.
Moving into Act 4, an overwhelming devotional response, covering verses 17 through 22.
We're shifting gears now. We're moving from the intellectual head of that karmic math straight into the profound emotional heart of the text. This timeline happens over just a few short verses, but the micro-events are incredibly moving. First, King Prithu bows his head, fully accepting the Lord's instruction to forgive. Second, he approaches the ashamed King Indra and warmly embraces him, just completely letting go of all animosity.
Third, Lord Vishnu is ready to leave, but he is so moved by Prithu's pure behavior that he literally pauses his departure out of deep affection. And finally, King Prithu stands before the Lord, and his voice is so choked with love and tears that he's completely unable to speak.
Verse 21 gives us this incredibly beautiful image. With a heart full of love, the king embraced the Lord within his mind and stood silently with tears in his eyes. He just stands there, hands folded. He can't even look at the Lord directly because his eyes are just brimming with tears. It is the absolute climax of Prithu's internal devotion. Finally, wiping his tears, he gathers himself to answer the Lord's offer.
Which brings us to Act 5, the prayer for pure devotion, verses 23 through 31.
King Prithu finally finds his voice. The Supreme Lord of the universe has just offered him absolutely anything he wants. So, what does a perfect king ask for? Well, first, he rejects everything. In verses 23 and 24, he says he doesn't want any material boons at all, pointing out that, hey, those things are available to embodied souls even in hell. But then he goes a step further and shocks everyone. He even rejects kaivalya, that ultimate liberation we defined earlier. Why on earth would he do that? Because, as he says, liberation doesn't contain the intoxicating nectar of the dust of the Lord's lotus feet. He doesn't just want peace, you guys, he wants connection.
And that sets up his actual request, 10,000. That is exactly what King Prithu asks for. He doesn't ask for wealth or immense power or even cosmic peace. He asks Lord Vishnu to give him 10,000 ears.
I mean, why 10,000 ears, right? Prithu wants them solely so he can properly hear the glories of the Lord dropping from the lips of pure devotees. In verses 25 through 29, Prithu explains that hearing these glories is vastly superior to any other possible reward. It awakens the spiritual memory of forgetful souls who have lost their way. It brings supreme auspiciousness. He even notes that the goddess of fortune herself serves the Lord just to hear these glories, and he jokingly adds that he feels absolutely no rivalry with her in this shared devotion. For Prithu, one pair of ears is simply not enough to capture the magnitude of this truth. So the crucial point is captured beautifully in verses 30 and 31. Prithu acknowledges that the Lord's offer of a boon is almost like an illusion to test him. He says to Vishnu, a father acts for the benefit of his child. Think about it. A child might ask for something harmful, but a good father only gives what is actually best for them. Prithu completely surrenders his free will right here, asking the Lord to just do whatever he deems best, totally refusing to be distracted by misleading material desires. And now, Act 6, Blessings and the Lord's Departure, taking us through the final verses, 32 to 38.
The Lord, of course, is profoundly satisfied with this answer. He tells the king, "May you always possess such pure devotion," assuring Prithu that with this exact mindset, he'll easily cross over the insurmountable illusions of the material world. With his blessings bestowed, the Lord prepares to depart in an event of massive cosmic scale. As he leaves for his own abode, he's followed by an unfathomable procession. Demigods, great sages, ancestors, Gandharvas, Siddhas, celestial singers, Nagas, Kinnaras, Apsaras, ordinary mortals, and even the birds. Literally every entity that had gathered for the sacrifice honors the king and follows behind the departing Lord.
And as that massive procession fades, the chapter comes to a really serene close. Verses 37 and 38 describe how the Lord, though now unseen, essentially carried away the king's mind with him. King Prithu offers his deep respects to the invisible Supreme Lord, and with a fully satisfied heart, he calmly returns to his capital to fulfill those heavy karmic duties of protecting his citizens.
We've just journeyed through all 38 verses of this incredible encounter. And this brilliantly illustrates the vast difference between what we think we want and what our soul actually needs. It leaves us with a profound question to ponder. If the Supreme Lord stood before you right now and offered you the ultimate material boon, would you take it? Or, like King Prithu, would you ask for 10,000 ears just to hear the spiritual truth? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep seeking the truth.
You know, I want you to just imagine for a second that you spend your entire life building an absolute masterpiece. Like, let's say it's an architectural marvel, a grand cathedral.
Oh, wow, yeah. a real legacy project.
Right. And you have laid every single brick yourself. You've poured all your wealth, your time, your literal sweat into it. And you are just one single brick away from finishing the very top spire.
You can just see the finish line, right? It is literally right there.
Exactly. And right as you are reaching out to place that final piece, someone just walks up and takes a sledgehammer to the foundation.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they completely sabotage it. And I mean, they don't even do it for a good reason. They just do it out of pure petty jealousy.
I mean, your immediate reaction there isn't going to be, understanding or grace. It's going to be absolute rage.
Oh, 100%.
It's a complete violation of justice. You want retribution.
You really want retribution. And that exact agonizing scenario is what we are dissecting today in this deep dive.
It's such a powerful setup.
It really is. We are looking at a profound encounter in the ancient Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, specifically Canto 4, Chapter 20. And it's between a legendary ruler, King Prithu, and the Supreme Lord, Vishnu.
And we are going to extract some pretty timeless wisdom here. We'll be looking at the actual mechanics of forgiveness, the terrifying karmic burden of leadership, and, well, the true meaning of desire.
Yeah, it is a text that really forces us to question our deepest assumptions about justice and ego, and even reward.
So to understand the stakes here, like in the first two verses, we really have to look at King Prithu's situation.
Okay, set the scene for us.
So he is in the middle of performing his 100th massive horse sacrifice, the Ashvamedha Yajna.
And this is a monumental ritual, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Completing 100 of these would actually elevate him to the cosmic status of Indra, who's the king of heaven.
Okay, so Indra probably isn't too happy about that.
Exactly. Feeling totally threatened by Prithu's success, Indra actually sabotages this 100th sacrifice.
A sledgehammer to the foundation.
Right. But then, Lord Vishnu himself arrives on the scene. And he actually has the jealous Indra in tow.
Wow, okay.
And Vishnu tells Prithu that Indra is asking for forgiveness. And despite ruining this literal lifetime achievement, he should be pardoned.
Okay, let's unpack this, because reading this scenario, it just feels incredibly frustrating. Somebody completely ruins your life's greatest work, and you are just supposed to let it go.
It's a massive ask.
It really is. Honestly, if you're listening to this while, commuting to work, you might be thinking, how on earth do I apply this when my coworker steals credit for my massive project?
Right, it feels totally relatable on that level.
Yeah, like isn't Vishnu just encouraging spiritual bypassing here? Just sweeping a calculated betrayal under the rug in the name of being, quote-unquote, enlightened.
Well, it certainly looks like a demand for passive submission on the surface, I'll give you that. But if we look at verses 3 through 6, Vishnu doesn't just say, forgive him because I am the Lord and I said so.
Oh, and
yeah, he offers a brilliant, deeply philosophical mechanism for how forgiveness actually works.
okay, I'm listening.
Vishnu tells Prithu that highly intelligent people, like true sages, they do not hold grudges against other living beings. And that's because they understand the mechanics of the soul.
Meaning what, exactly?
Well, they know the eternal soul is completely separate from the temporary physical body and, the ego attached to it.
Okay, I get that, but how does knowing that actually stop the anger in the moment?
So Vishnu explains the mechanism of Maya, which is the binding force of illusion. Maya is essentially mistaking the temporary for the eternal.
Right.
Vishnu argues that if a wise person falls for this illusion and holds a grudge, then all their years of serving elders, all their rigorous study, was just a complete waste of labor.
Oh, wow. So it's like failing the final exam.
Exactly. It means they learned the theory of enlightenment, but failed the practical application. Vishnu describes the physical body as just a temporary house. It is a structure built out of ignorance and past karma.
So he asks, why claim ultimate ownership over it?
You hit the nail on the head.
That reframes things significantly. I mean, it's kind of like renting a hotel room.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
Like, you wouldn't invest your life savings into renovating a hotel room you're leaving tomorrow, right? And holding a grudge is essentially fighting to the death over the ugly wallpaper in a room you don't even own.
That is a perfect way to look at it. Why be so attached to the house or the wealth and legacy it produces when you are literally just a temporary resident?
It just doesn't make sense.
Right. When you hold a grudge, you are defending the temporary hotel room as if it is your eternal self. Taking the sting out of the betrayal requires realizing that the thing that was betrayed wasn't the real you anyway.
And the text actually goes even deeper into this anatomy of the real you, right around verses 7 through 12.
Yes, it gets very descriptive.
Vishnu says the soul is one, it is pure, it is self-luminous, and it acts as an uncovered witness. I really want to zero in on that phrase, uncovered witness.
It's a beautiful term.
It implies the soul is just watching the movie of life. Like it isn't actually on the screen getting heard.
Exactly. The soul is observing the material world, experiencing the results of karma, but its essential nature remains completely untouched.
Right.
Vishnu points out that one who truly understands this and performs their prescribed duties without selfish desire attains peace. Wise individuals are not disturbed by the constant ebb and flow of material prosperity or adversity.
They just remain completely steady.
Yes. What's fascinating here is how Vishnu diffuses a highly volatile, potentially explosive political situation, not by scolding the offender, but by elevating the victim's consciousness to a level where the injury doesn't even exist.
Okay, but wait. If the soul is just watching the movie and completely detached, doesn't that make us passive?
That's a really common concern, yeah.
Like if I'm just an uncovered witness, why should I care about my job or my family, or in Prithu's case, his entire kingdom? Doesn't this level of detachment just breed complete apathy? How does a king actually rule a kingdom if he's just sitting back watching the illusion?
That is the crucial paradox of this entire philosophy. And Vishnu actually addresses it immediately. Detachment does not mean inaction. It means unselfish action.
Ah, okay, that's a big distinction.
Huge. The text transitions seamlessly from the internal realization of the soul to the external responsibility of the body. In verses 13 and 14, Vishnu outlines the immense burden of the crown.
So he's giving Prithu a masterclass in governance now.
Pretty much. He instructs King Prithu to be perfectly equal to everyone, whether they are high, middle, or low in society, and to diligently protect his citizens.
So you don't abandon the kingdom.
Right. You rule it, but without the ego of thinking you are the ultimate proprietor.
And this protection, he mentions it isn't just about border security or making sure the streets are safe. The text describes a literal karmic transaction happening between a leader and their people.
It is a profound metaphysical economy. The Śrīmad Bhāgavatam details that a king, or really any leader, who genuinely protects his people, inherits 1/6 of their pious good karma in the next life.
1/6.
Yeah. By fostering an environment where citizens can thrive spiritually and morally, the leader's spiritual bank account literally grows alongside theirs.
But if they fail to provide that protection, the math reverses in a pretty terrifying way, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does.
Yeah.
If a king does not protect the citizens and merely collects taxes from them, like extracting their wealth without providing physical and spiritual security, that leader literally absorbs all the sins of those citizens.
That is heavy.
And simultaneously, he loses all his own accumulated piety. Think of taxes as a physical manifestation of a citizen's life, energy, and labor.
Right.
If a king consumes that energy without providing the environment necessary for those citizens to grow, the universe demands a rebalancing. The king incurs a massive spiritual debt.
I mean, imagine if modern corporate leadership worked like that.
Oh man, that would be something.
Like, imagine if a CEO taking a massive multi-million-dollar bonus while the company tanks didn't just get a grumpy article written about them, but literally metaphysically absorbed the bad karma, the stress, and the misdeeds of all their laid-off employees.
The world would look very different.
It's taxation, but the currency is your soul. You take their labor, you absorb their sins.
It would completely transform how power is wielded. The incentive structure of leadership in this text is tied directly to the soul's fate. Leadership is not a privilege to be enjoyed. It is an incredible spiritual liability if executed poorly.
But Vishnu does promise a reward for doing it right, as we see in verses 15 and 16. By following this righteous path of detached duty, Prithu is promised visits from perfected sages.
Which is a huge honor.
Yeah. And this brings us to a major turning point.
Yeah.
Vishnu is deeply impressed, but he isn't impressed by the fact that Prithu threw 99 massive, expensive rituals.
Yeah, he's not.
He is impressed by Prithu's even mind, and because of this character, Vishnu offers Prithu any boon, like any wish he desires.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this completely upends the traditional transactional view of religion. Vishnu explicitly states, he is not easily obtained by mechanical sacrifices alone, but by an even mind.
It's about character.
Exactly. True divinity is won through character and equanimity. But Vishnu's promise of a reward actually creates a new problem here.
Oh, how so?
Well, if the goal is detachment, isn't offering Prithu a wish just throwing him right back into the trap of material desire?
Oh, that is a really good point. Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at how Prithu navigates that trap, because the reconciliation that happens in verses 17 through 22 is just beautiful.
A very emotional sequence.
It really is. Prithu, completely humbled by the philosophy we just discussed, accepts Vishnu's instruction on his head. And Indra, the king of heaven who caused this entire mess to begin with, is so ashamed he comes forward and touches Prithu's feet.
A profound gesture of submission, especially from someone of Indra's status.
Exactly. And Prithu lovingly embraces him. He drops the enmity completely. He realizes the hotel room isn't worth fighting over.
Right.
And as Vishnu prepares to leave, the text says he is actually delayed by his deep affection for Prithu. The emotional resonance here is striking. Prithu is so overwhelmed by the presence of the Lord that he is rendered completely speechless.
Yeah, he can't even get a word out.
He is choking with tears, simply staring at Vishnu, whose hand is resting gently on the shoulder of Garuda, his divine eagle carrier.
For a king who was ready to wage literal war moments ago, to be paralyzed by awe and tears, it just shows the complete transformation of his consciousness.
It really does.
And when he finally wipes his tears and composes himself, he answers Vishnu's offer of a boon. And his request, which spans verses 23 through 26, is staggering.
He flat out rejects any material boons. He points out that you can get material wealth and sensory pleasure even if you are suffering in hell.
Right, they're ultimately meaningless.
So he doesn't want wealth. He doesn't want power. He even rejects liberation. Which is wild because escaping the cycle of rebirth is usually the ultimate goal in these texts, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
But instead, he asks for 10,000 years.
He asks for the capacity to endlessly hear the divine.
Wait, 10,000 years? Seriously?
I know, it sounds intense.
If you take that literally, it sounds like he wants to be some kind of mythological mutant. How does the listener make sense of this bizarre request?
Well, the poetic depth here is actually describing an insatiable spiritual thirst. Prithu explains why he rejects liberation, or moksha.
Okay, break that down for us.
In the state of impersonal liberation, there is no duality. You just merge into the divine. But if you merge into the divine, you lose your individual capacity to hear the stories and qualities of the Lord.
Because there's no you left to do the hearing.
Exactly. Prithu is saying that the relationship, the act of hearing the nectar-like glories of the Lord falling from the mouths of great souls, is vastly superior to simply ceasing to exist as an individual.
So our standard sensory capacity, just having 2 ears, is completely insufficient for the magnitude of divine wisdom.
That's it. Prithu describes this wisdom as a constant breeze that restores the memory of straying yogis. It wakes people up from the Maya we talked about earlier.
The illusion.
Right. And he makes a very bold statement here. He says, anyone who knows the glorious qualities of the Lord and chooses to stop listening to them is essentially acting like an animal.
Because to stop seeking that wisdom is to just settle for the temporary house, the physical body.
Precisely.
If you aren't pursuing higher truth, you're just eating, sleeping, and defending your territory like any other animal. The highest boon isn't a thing. It's the expanded capacity to receive wisdom.
He recognizes that the process of devotion is the destination itself.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else to go.
And he doesn't just leave it at this high, lofty poetry either. Prithu actually brings some surprising humor into this divine encounter in verses 27 and 28.
Yeah, this part always makes me smile.
He jokes that by desiring to focus entirely on Vishnu's qualities, he might actually end up starting a massive quarrel with the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi.
It's a very clever theological joke, honestly.
Yeah.
It highlights the intimacy of his devotion. Lakshmi is Vishnu's eternal consort, famously devoted to him.
Right.
So Prithu is saying, look, if I become this obsessed with hearing about you, Lakshmi and I are going to be rivals competing for the exact same husband's attention.
That is hilarious.
But he follows it up beautifully by acknowledging that the Lord is deeply affectionate to the poor and doesn't ultimately need anyone, not even the goddess of fortune.
I mean, it takes a lot of spiritual confidence to joke with the Supreme Lord about domestic rivalry.
He really does.
But then, in verses 29 through 31, the tone shifts again. Prithu essentially calls Vishnu out.
He does, yeah.
He looks at Vishnu and says that the very phrase, ask for a boon, is a trap. It's an illusion designed to bewilder people.
Prithu deeply understands the mechanics of karma here. He points out that if the Lord didn't tempt people with material choices, if he didn't dangle these boons in front of them, people wouldn't get bewildered and entangled in karmic consequences.
So the offer itself is the test.
Exactly. The desire for a boon is the very thing that chains you to the material world.
It makes me think of parenting, honestly.
Oh, okay.
It's like asking a toddler what they want for dinner. Of course they are going to say ice cream. And if you give it to them every night because they ask for it, they'll get sick. The truly good parent doesn't offer the illusion of choice when the child's desires are inherently destructive, you know?
They just do what's best.
Right. They just serve up some healthy broccoli. And Prithu is telling Vishnu exactly this. He says, "You are the Supreme Father. Don't ask me what I want, my desires are flawed. Just do what is absolutely best for me."
This raises an important question for anyone engaging with personal development or spirituality. What is the actual nature of true surrender?
That's a big one.
We often think surrender means giving up our physical possessions or, I don't know, moving to a monastery. But Prithu shows that true surrender is realizing that our very capacity to choose, our desires themselves, are flawed compared to divine will.
Wow.
Relinquishing the right to choose your own reward is the ultimate display of trust.
Don't give me what I want, give me what I need. That is a terrifying level of vulnerability, honestly.
It takes immense courage.
So what does this all mean? How does Vishnu respond to this absolute surrender? Because in verses 32 and 33, we finally get the conclusion to this epic test.
Vishnu, the all-seeing Lord, is deeply moved by this. He openly praises Prithu's immense intelligence.
He passed the test.
He did. Vishnu confirms that this exact mindset, the refusal of material boons, the realization of the soul, the desire only for devotion, is the precise mechanism that allows a soul to cross over his insurmountable Maya. Prithu has completely cracked the code.
The boon was a test, and rejecting the boon was the only correct answer.
And Vishnu's final instruction to Prithu is remarkably simple. He just tells him to diligently do his prescribed duty.
So he still has to be a king.
Yes, there is no mystical escape from the world here. The perfection is found in executing his worldly duties as a king with this new, elevated, completely detached consciousness.
Do the work, but do it without being tangled in the ego of it.
Precisely.
And that brings us to the grand departure in the final verses, 34 through 38. Vishnu decides it is finally time to leave. And Prithu, now operating on this completely elevated plane, sees all the gathered guests, not just the important ones, but everyone as part of the Supreme Lord.
The text lists the sheer cosmic scale of this audience, too. It includes demigods, sages, ancestors, and celestial musicians like the Gandharvas and Kinnaras.
That's quite the guest list.
It is, and it includes mortal humans and even the birds and the serpents.
And he honors everyone. He offers them sweet words, he distributes wealth, he sees the divine spark in the literal snakes and birds, treating them with the exact same equanimity Vishnu demanded of him earlier.
He's living the philosophy now.
Yeah, he really is. And as Vishnu finally departs to return to Vaikuntha, which is the spiritual realm, a word that literally translates to the place without anxiety, the text says, he completely captivates and steals the mind of King Prithu.
It is a beautiful paradox. The physical manifestation of the Lord departs, but he leaves his essence entirely embedded in the king's mind. The Lord is unseen, yet more present than ever.
So Prithu's external reality hasn't changed.
Not at all. He is still a king with a massive kingdom to run, but his internal landscape is completely transformed. He now rules not for his ego, but as an instrument of something vastly larger.
It is an incredible arc. I mean, let's just trace the path of what we've covered today.
It's been quite a journey.
We started with a bitter, entirely justified grudge over a ruined masterpiece. We watched the mechanics of how that grudge dissolves by understanding the soul as an uncovered witness, completely separate from the temporary hotel room of the body.
Right.
We explored the heavy, energetic price tag of leadership and governance, where a leader literally absorbs the karma of their people. And finally, we arrived at the profound realization that the greatest wish you could ever be granted isn't wealth or power, but simply the capacity to hear and absorb more wisdom.
It really forces a complete reevaluation of what we consider valuable in our own lives and, how we interact with those who wrong us.
Before we wrap up, we want to leave you with a final thought to really mull over, building directly on verse 14, that concept of karmic taxation we discussed earlier.
Consider this deeply. If our modern political and corporate leaders operated under the absolute undeniable certainty that they spiritually and literally absorb the sins, the anxieties, and the misdeeds of every single citizen or employee they failed to protect,
Yeah.
how drastically would our global policies change overnight?
Imagine a world where building your own masterpiece means you are eternally responsible for the spiritual well-being of everyone standing in its shadow. That is a heavy brick to carry. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep seeking out those aha moments.